Happy Monday. I'll explain in a moment. I will explain in a moment. Thank you for being here. It's a Monday, and I will be a little short today as the president is beginning some signings at the White House and the Oval Office. We don't want to conflict, so forgive me in that regard. But I do have a few announcements for you here, and we'll start. President Trump and Secretary of State Marco Rubio continue to deliver on this administration's vision of peace through strength, resolute diplomacy backed by principled leadership. On June 27th, Secretary Rubio, Undersecretary Allison Hooker, and Senior Advisor Massad Boulos hosted the ministerial signing of a landmark peace agreement between the Democratic Republic of the Congo and the Republic of Rwanda. The agreement marks a historic milestone for the Great Lakes region, bringing an end to a 30-year war. The United States, in coordination with the African Union, Qatar, and Togo, will continue supporting full implementation of this comprehensive peace deal to pave the way for mutual prosperity. Tomorrow, Secretary Rubio will welcome his Quad counterparts from Australia, India, and Japan to Washington to reaffirm our shared commitment to a free and open Indo-Pacific. This ministerial reinforces our joint resolve to defend sovereignty, strengthen regional maritime security, and build resilient supply chains. And as you may know, today, President Trump will issue a new executive order lifting U.S. sanctions on Syria, reaffirming his belief that the Syrian people deserve a future of safety and prosperity. This policy reflects the president's conviction that American leadership can unlock new paths to regional stability. Finally, the department's Middle East Task Force ended its activities on Friday, June 27th. U.S. embassies and consulates throughout the region are open and providing routine and emergency consular services. The department also continues to share information and updates with U.S. citizens affected by the conflict. As of today, we have sent nearly 100 security alerts since the onset of the crisis. Additionally, a total of 16 flights departed Israel with over 650 U.S. citizens and lawful permanent residents and their accompanying immediate family members. We are grateful to our partners in the region, particularly Greece, Italy, and Cyprus, for welcoming U.S. citizens on these assisted departure flights, and to our partners in Qatar and around the world. It is a good thing to be able to say that today to you. I now welcome your questions. All right, yes, Humaira. Not that you have anything ever on your mind. Let's do it.
Thank you, Tammy.
Yes, ma'am.
So a couple of questions. One on Israel, actually. I was going to ask about Syria, but I'll get to it later. So Haaretz newspaper last week reported that Israel's military advocate general has ordered an investigation into possible war crimes over allegations that Israeli forces deliberately fired at Palestinian civilians near Gaza aid distribution sites. These are the ones that GHF does, as you know. And then today, Israeli military acknowledged that Palestinian civilians were harmed at these aid distribution centers. So I'm wondering, in light of these assessments, is the administration going to rethink allocating that money to GHF?
Well, I think the answer to that certainly is no. What we do expect, and the IDF and Israel have announced that they are, of course, investigating certain incidents. It is a good time for a reminder here that Hamas is responsible for the current situation in Gaza. They, of course, initiated the attacks on October 7th. They continue to refuse to lay down their arms or to free the remaining hostages, including the remains of 2 Americans, and use violence to interfere with aid deliveries to the people of Gaza who are in dire need of food and aid. So in the meantime, I think that we also have to recognize that, of course, this remains a war zone effectively. There are 4 sites working for the GHF. We are coming up to, I think, about 51 million meals distributed. It is certainly not easy. There are efforts in those on the ground who do not want this to be a success, who have made the lives of the people of Gaza miserable for decades now. And this is a key, unlocking a door to a better future. So this is what the president has asked for. which is a new approach for Gaza. There's a demand, understandably, for aid to get in. The GHF is doing that. And as we also, of course, decry loss of life and the violence that it continues. But that's why we do what we do, and we continue to work for a ceasefire as well.
Yeah, I understand all that. A quick follow-up on that. I completely understand what you're saying. But does the administration have any concern about this? I mean, these are Israeli authorities accepting that Palestinians have been harmed. Perhaps is the administration thinking about talking to GHF for risk mitigation?
Yes, I won't get into the details of the conversations that are had. Obviously, that our work there doesn't stop. We continue on. We're still working. The president noted the other day that there's potential for a ceasefire. We look forward to that. Clearly, it's been maybe a little over a week since American power and Donald Trump's leadership has changed the Middle East forever. So there's still more to do. We recognize that Israel is doing the appropriate thing with investigating certain allegations, and we certainly, like everyone else, will be watching that. And at the same time, we also know that there are people on the ground who want to disrupt and disturb the success of this because of the nature of this industrial complex that has allowed this to go on for decades. So we are working to get aid in, at the same time still working for that ceasefire, still hoping to make the difference for Gaza. And of course, I think our action and the issues with Iran speak to our commitment to changing the Middle East so people can live in peace. Andrea Mitchell.
Thank you so much. A related follow-up, acknowledging that obviously Hamas started this on October 7th and broke the ceasefire and are still holding hostages. And some of us have not only witnessed the October 7th video, the IDF video, but the subsequent Nova video, which is profoundly disturbing. Acknowledging all of that.
Yes, ma'am.
How does the president's aspirations for a ceasefire, now that the landscape has been changed appreciably, how is that affected by the Israeli strikes in Gaza City today? How does he view any of that with alarm? Are there conversations with the government of Israel?
I would caution that with reports from the area that we in fact honor the fact that there are investigations and to wait for actual facts. That I think will be very useful. Again, at the same time, we know the president has an excellent relationship with Bibi Netanyahu, that we in fact have made a commitment he has from the beginning of this administration to change that environment. And it's that commitment remains. Certainly, we know the story is that 51 million meals have been distributed through the region, through Gaza. We also know the president has called for new ideas. This is part of that. And the regional partners are acting on that as well. We know this can't continue. Israel is an ally of ours. We, of course, I'm not going to discuss or presume to know the conversations the president's having. That is his prerogative.
May I just clarify?
Yes, ma'am.
I may have been imprecise. I was not referring to any strikes on the food delivery. I was referring to separate strikes that have been reported in the north, in Gaza City, that resulted in several casualties.
Well, again, this is a war zone. Hamas has still not put down their weapons. We had a ceasefire, which they violated and refused to engage in another one. We continue, despite all of that, to get another ceasefire, but the ceasefire was broken by Hamas. It's a war. If to speak about the specifics of what Israel is doing, I would direct you to the Israeli government. And I think it's important to recognize that this is a process that is ongoing. Our role in this is to help ease the suffering as much as we can. And certainly part of that is going to hopefully get a ceasefire. The president is optimistic, and so we will be as well. Right. Matt Lee maybe has a question.
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, I do. I do want to ask about Syria, but first I just want to get very, very briefly.
I might want to go on and on,
How
Matt.
do you
I don't know.
how do you decide? Well, my question is going to be very, very.
Oh, all right. Yes.
How do you decide when it's okay to speak about revoking someone's visa? Because for years and years and years, decades in fact, in covering this building, it's always the mantra has been visa records are confidential. And yet we have a situation where an entertainer in the UK has had his visa revoked very publicly by the Deputy Secretary of State in a tweet, retweeted by Secretary Rubio and confirmed by other officials. So what's the deal with this law? Does it not really apply unless you want it to? Unless you don't want to talk about it?
Well, yeah, I can't speak to the decisions at the times of when to discuss something of this sort. What we do know is a very public dynamic with individuals. We have a very public policy and procedure and process now that we're discussing regarding national security and how we are handling the visa process. In this particular case, of course, what you're referring to is the tweet from our Deputy Secretary of State, Christopher Landau, that the State Department has revoked the U.S. visas for the members of the Bob Vylan band in light of their hateful tirade at Glastonbury, including leading the crowd in death chants. Foreigners who glorify violence and hatred are not welcome visitors to our country. Now, we've stated that when it comes to how we vet people, if they are going to be coming here to be helpful, to be nice people, to be great tourists, or if they're coming for other reasons, that every sovereign nation has a right to decide who's going to come to this country. So we've been public about that standard. And this was a very public event that violated, as you've seen from the Deputy Secretary's tweet, that very basic standard about the nature of who we want to let into the country. That's all right. It is important the American people support us taking care about who comes here. And I think his tweet and the Secretary's language and his approach on the policy speaks for itself.
Okay, so it's basically, if it's a public kind of facing thing, then
Well,
you're
I didn't say
okay
that. I
with-
said in this case that that's what has occurred. I think that it's the policy certainly is clear for individuals, but when we're thinking about the nature of the policy itself that has been publicly discussed, they chose to do so this time.
And then just also very briefly on Syria, there is this, as you mentioned, the president's going to be signing this executive order
Correct.
shortly in the next 10, 15
That's
minutes or so. Can you give us an idea what the State Department component of the impact of what this will do? What is state? Because I know it's Treasury and Commerce
Right.
all involved. So what happens at the State Department after this EO is signed?
Well, it is sanctions and aspects like that, of course, belong to the Treasury. A lot of people don't know that they're the ones who manage that with the application, the nature of what occurs. I will repeat what my colleague Caroline said just a little bit ago about this event. The president is going to sign an executive order to terminate the U.S. sanctions program on Syria, and this is in an effort to promote and support the country's path towards stability and peace. The order will remove sanctions on Syria while maintaining sanctions on the former President Assad, his associates, human rights abusers, drug traffickers, persons linked to chemical weapons activities, ISIS members and their affiliates, and Iranian proxies. Again, this is an action that the president has promised and shocked the world within Saudi Arabia, because when he first announced this plan, he is committed to supporting a Syria that is stable, united, and at peace with itself and its neighbors. So in this particular application, of course, this is about the Treasury, it's about the White House, and certainly our special envoy, Ambassador Barrack, and his now application and work getting that country back on its feet. All right, Sean.
Can I go back to the music a bit?
Yes, sir.
On Glastonbury, just getting to the decision to revoke the visas, members of this administration, particularly the vice president, have been very vocal about free expression, saying that even if things are hateful, particularly the vice president took to task Germany and to a certain extent the UK, saying that there are laws that prohibit hateful content and insults, that those are inappropriate. What's the difference here? I mean, I'm not justifying, I'm not supporting the Bob Dylan as a band, but why is it that this speech is out of line while you have there's at the same time a push to not to outlaw free expression elsewhere when it comes to insults?
Right. I think that, again, this is not about the nature of a concert, I suppose, but it really is about our standards, about who we let in the country. That we're not telling people what they can sing about or what they can say. It's not involved here at all. They obviously felt free to say what they were saying and chanting at Glastonbury, and they can do that. And we can do what we do. So it really is about the issue of national security, about issues of violence. the increase certainly of anti-Semitism, but of terrorism in general. That dynamic, the crime in the United States, what happened with the open border, the transnational gangs that are here, this kind of wanton dynamic that has ruined American lives, that has created cities that are unlivable, and every American deserves better. They deserve to know they have leadership, as we do now. And that's why they voted for Donald Trump, was simple, basic law and order, respect for your neighbor, and if you're coming to this country, respect for the people who are here. So I think that when we think about why you have a visa system, which is in part to vet and to stop and to ask questions, is to take that seriously.
Well, can I just pursue that in one other case of free expression? Hungary, Prime Minister Orban, who of course is a close ally of the president, tried to ban a pride parade this weekend. Tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of people came out. Does the U.S. have a view on that? Do you think that it's justified to ban an LGBTQ pride parade?
Well, when the vice president or any of us speak about the nature of policy, or I think what's important regarding freedom of expression, that's our plan and what we feel is important to convey, and then what countries do is their business. Events happen all over the world, as we know, every day, which the United States has no comment about. And we have nothing to add on this matter. But again, I think it's about what what countries do, the choices they make with their nations, and what citizens do and how they respond to that.
With respect, I mean, the U.S. did criticize the UK over bans on anti-abortion protesters.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any contradiction and not?
Well, again, I'm not going to speak to individual situations or instances or comments that are made. Again, we have events that happen all the time all over the world, which might be worth commenting on, but we don't comment on all of them, I think, for a very good reason. Yes, sir.
On events happening all over the world. In Nigeria recently, more than 200 people were slaughtered earlier this month in a series of attacks on Christian villages by Islamic militants. Some 6,000 were displaced. What's state doing to address this? Is there anything state can do to address this?
Well, I can't speak about what is being discussed now or is in any kind of diplomatic conversations or planning, et cetera, but I'm going to be briefing again on Wednesday. Today is a unique week because we have the Quad with the Secretary tomorrow, which I'll be a part of. So we'll be briefing on Wednesday. Let's take that back and find out where that stands and what our plans are. I'll have that for you. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Tanya. We'll move to Ukraine, if I may. Russians are stepping up their air attacks on Ukraine, which happen to be larger than ever before. The president on Friday addressed the Ukraine issue, and he said that Putin, quote unquote, respects our country again. Well, hours after that, Putin unleashed the largest ever air attack on Ukraine. Do you think Russia respects President Trump?
I'm sorry, do I think?
Do you think Russia respects President Trump? President Trump says that they respect me, and next thing we see hours after that, they launch the largest air.
Well, I don't, I've certainly, for obvious reasons, refused to characterize the most powerful man in the world who is saving this country and the world at this time, but I can tell you other things that he has said, most recently on the 25th. He said, I consider him, Putin, a person that's been misguided. I'm very surprised, actually. I thought we would have had that settled, talking about certain issues. He also said, he called the other day, he said, can I help you with Iran? I said, no, you can help me with Russia. You help me to get a settlement with you, with Russia, and I think we're going to be able to get that done too. And also on Putin's ambitions regarding Ukraine. He said, I know one thing is that he'd like to settle. He'd like to get out of this thing. It's a mess for him. So the president, in negotiating and dealing with some of the worst conflicts, certainly that we've ever had, the carnage that is going on, the president is the one person who's been able to bring everyone to the table, who's willing to talk to everyone, who has the power of the United States at his back and the support of the American people. And I think that he understands, and he has repeated again within the last few days, just his frustration and lack of acceptance at the attacks that have gone on in Ukraine by Russia, and that it has to stop, that there are too many people dying. This remains a key element for his administration. It is a key part of the work that his administration as a whole is doing, is our support for Ukraine and the need for that carnage to stop.
For some of us, Tammy covered President's trip last week, and you addressed from the podium his signature achievement, which is 5% of GDP spending among NATO members. Lavrov today called it catastrophic, and he said that defense spending decision could lead, quote unquote, NATO's collapse. How did you read that?
Yes, I'm not going to speak to that, but what we do know is what apparently bothers Russia is the fact that NATO is going to be strongly returning to its original roots of being a deterrent. And that is what NATO's job has been. The advancement of their commitment to defense is remarkable, and not only we of course support NATO completely, and their role is imperative for a safe and stable Europe, and that's the point. Being a deterrent, this kind of defense spending helps them achieve that. And of course, it is something that would not have happened without President Trump's encouragement and demand. And so we're excited about that. I'm like, yes, sir, in the back there.
Thank you very much. Two quick questions. Some regional sources said this week or next week, the U.S. representative to Syria will meet Mazloum Kobani and Prime Minister Masroor Barzani in Erbil. Can you update us about that?
No, I can't speak to any ongoing meetings or meetings that may or may not be coming up.
And second question about Iran. Iran's representative to United Nations has said that the conditions are not favorable for negotiation with the United States. What is your response to this statement, and what is your message would you like to send to the Iranian people?
Well, to the Iranian people, of course, as we've always been saying, is that every country is in the hands of its own people. When it comes to what Iran's leadership is saying, of what's left of it, the president's words and the president's position is the one that prevails here. It is his guiding hand, and he has been very transparent about his opinion, his desire for Iran to move into the normal order with countries, but also his awareness that, as he has stated, that he continues to be willing to do whatever is necessary to make sure there's peace in the region. And now this is the unusual point because of the president's schedule. It is 30 past the hour. I'm going to wrap it up today, but I will see you again on Wednesday. And you know how to reach me here. I think I've got an email. All right, thank you, everyone. Have a great day. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks for your patience.